Hi there, and welcome back to this week's Tiny Tip. This week we're going to continue on with our finger picking. Last week we tried to practice the technique for plucking with our thumb and getting a nice sound. Now this week we're going to start talking about notes and what notes we're playing on open strings on our ukuleles and what that looks like on the musical staff. Now there's lots of different ways that music can be notated, and you know, a lot of people in the world of fretted instruments like ukuleles and guitars often will default to something like tablature, which is a reference point. But for me, I think that the musical staff, musical notation is, despite the fact that it's extremely challenging at first, is a really good, solid way to learn how to read music. And it translates to all kinds of instruments, every instrument really, including voice. And so when you learn how to read the language of musical notation, you're not just using it in the ukulele sphere. You're going to really have a way to talk to other musicians or to read music for a variety of instruments. So it's well worth learning, even though it might make your brain really hurt at first, because it is another language, in fact, a language of symbols even. So today we're going to take a quick look at the notes on our ukulele, open strings, and what that looks like on the treble clef. Now the treble clef exists with 5 lines and 4 spaces. Now those lines are not anything to do with the strings on our ukuleles. They are simply a way to notate notes and translating into a whole other set of instruments and all kinds of things. So they don't represent the strings like tablature does. So that's one thing you have to kind of change if you're used to reading tab. The lines are not the strings. So there are mnemonics that we can memorize to help us get started identifying the notes on those lines and spaces in the treble clef. Now, the lines, there are a number of mnemonics, and you can make up your own too, but this old standard that I even use when I teach piano and other instruments is every good boy deserves fudge. I don't know if that's even kosher to say anymore. Or every good boy does fine. You can make up your own, but essentially the notes along that staff are E, G, B, D, F, starting from the bottom and going up. Now the spaces, which are in between those lines, spell the word face, F-A-C-E. And those are some starting reference points for you to get familiar with where the notes actually fall symbolically on the musical staff, and they will tell you what pitch you need to play on your instrument. For us right now, on our ukuleles. So if we take a look at ukulele tuning and where the open strings actually fall, some people don't even realize they tune up their strings, G, C, E, A, but they don't even realize that those are actually notes that would fall on musical notated staff. And so if we look at our 4th string, this highest string to the ceiling. In my case, I have a low G. So when I have a low G, it's actually going to fall below the treble clef staff. And so I have to write a few extra lines called ledger lines in order to get those notes in. So my low G is going to be 2 lines and then a space below. Okay? If you have a high G, reentrant tuning on your ukulele for your 4th string, that G is going to be the 2nd line up, every good. That's the G that you're going to be hitting with reentrant tuning, your high G tuning. The next note, C, is going to be middle C, and that falls also below the main lines of the treble clef, and it's going to be the 1st ledger line below, and the note is going to be sitting right in the line. It's going to sit right on top of it with the line through it. That's your middle C. Okay? The next note, E, is going to be that 1st line on the bottom, every. Okay? There's your E above middle C. And lastly, string number 1 is a higher A. So you need to think, where does that fall in my mnemonics? Well, A actually falls in the spaces, F-A-C-E, that word that spells face. The A is going to be the 2nd space up. So that's going to be my high A in C6 tuning. So there you go. That's where these notes fall on your ukulele musical notated staff. So it'll take some time to get used to what that actually means and to remember what those symbols mean in terms of connecting them with a note name and then also connecting that with the placement on the ukulele. So it's best to just start with open strings and learn what those notes look like on that musical staff. So as an example, let's just do a few beats on a little set of notes that I've written out, okay? So we're going to start off with string number 4, which is a low or high G, and we're going to do 4 quarter notes on that, 4 individual beats. Looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the next note that you'll see in the line that I've written is middle C. 2, 3, 4. And then the next one, E, is going to have 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. And lastly, your A is going to have 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can see what it looks like on the musical staff and versus what we're playing. So let's just try that again. Let's look at that whole line and play all of those notes together. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, good stuff. So those are individual notes that you can start trying to remember and match up just using open strings on the musical notation staff of the treble clef, because it is a new language. It's the language of music. I promise you it will be well worth learning in the long run. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.